Today we chat to a radio legend whose family all decided to be in the business of radio. Father, son and now grandson have all joined our amazing industry. So what do they talk about around the dinner table? Surely not radio. And what do they do for fun? Surely not listen to the radio. And does radio consume their entire lives? Well, let's find out. Hi, welcome to the Quarter Hour Podcast. I'm Liam Renton, along with Wade Kingsley, and today we look at a very cool experience at having not one, not two, but three generations from the same family who've all chosen to work in the radio business. Jon Vertigan Jr., having won 16 ACRA Awards, is well known in Australian radio.
Christopher Cross and Ride Like a Wind as we give you more classic hits. If you're travelling home, if you've got someone in the car with you after 5, you can do the da-da-da, and they can do the da-da-da. And you both do that. I'm going to be 500 miles with the Proclaimers, part of our 5 o'clock music marathon, which is next.
As was his dad, Jon Sr., who spent 53 years working in radio.
3DB welcomes you to Sportsline, and here's your host, Jon Vertigan.
Thank you, Sean. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another 3DB Sportsline, taking you right throughout the afternoon with all the races that are important. We'll also keep you up to date on the third test, which resumes today at the Adelaide Oval. And today is fine and sunny, and hoping you are the same at Bendigo, Brian Blackmore.
I most certainly am, John.
And now Jon's son, Ben Vertigan, has started his own journey at 3YB and Coast FM in Warrnambool. What a legacy. Jon Vertigan, welcome to the Quarter Hour Podcast.
Oh, it's lovely to be on the Quarter Hour Podcast, mate.
Thank you. Well, why don't we start with your earliest memories of radio? What did you listen to, and did your dad help shape that love of radio, considering he was in the business?
Look, I think undoubtedly that was the case, Liam. I grew up with radio in my family. My father was in the industry for 53 years. So I grew up listening to Dad on the radio. I grew up going into 3UZ and watching Dad do his craft. I had various radios on. You couldn't go into our house, Liam, as a kid. I remember there was one radio on in the kitchen. There was a radio on in the bathroom. There was a radio on in the lounge room, and then there was a radio in the other bathroom, all on different radio stations. And I grew a love for it that way because I was just exposed to it, and I knew from a very early age that that's what I wanted to do with my life.
What are those memories that stand out from your dad's career? I mean, what can you remember him saying on the radio? Maybe turn of phrase or something that he did that you remember him, or that was what my dad did on the radio?
Oh, he probably gave me my unhealthy addiction to gambling that I have today. No, well, I guess I grew up with Dad. So Dad was a DJ in the 60s before I was born at 3UZ. So he worked as a rocky jockey with Don Lahn and Alan Lappin and all of those guys at 3UZ when 3UZ was rating number 1 in the 60s. So that was before I was born. I remember Dad's career for what he was as I was growing up in the 80s as sports coordinator at 3DB and 3UZ. So he was the one that sat in the studio and said, numbers official at Donald for 3, 2 and 5. They're moving in at Moonee Valley, and Doonburn, the quaddy approximates are this and that. So that's how I remember Dad on the radio, and I used to go in and watch him on a Saturday afternoon, and it was incredible to watch, Liam. He would have feeds from 15 different racecourses from around Australia going through the Q channel in his left ear. He'd have other feeds through the Q channel in his right ear, and then he'd be speaking on air. So his brain to have handled that was just, I was just in awe of it. It was incredible to watch.
And you know what? Anyone that's ever done that is smiling right now, because nothing says I know what I'm doing than talking and you've got a Q channel going and you're listening to something while you're still having a half-decent chat on the radio. People can absolutely relate to what you're saying right now.
I know, and it's so different to what I do in saying, there's Pablo Cruz, love will find a way, good afternoon, I hope you're having a great day. It's just, it's worlds apart, but it's the same industry, and I love it for what it is, and I guess, I don't think I would be in it if it wasn't for Dad.
You decided to join radio. What's that conversation like with Dad? How supportive was he when you said, I'm going to do what you do?
As you know, Liam, I used to ring up radio stations persistently when I was a teenager to win prizes. And I would used to contribute with talkback topics and any way I could get myself on the air via the phone, I was all over it. I used to just love it. I used to love the feeling when the radio announcer that used to talk on air used to answer the phone, and I'd be speaking with him or her on my phone rather than on the air. It was just this indescribable buzz that it would give me. And then to hear them play back our conversation on the air, I thought, this is really what I want to do. I used to simulate doing programs, as we all did. I think all of us in the biz used to do the tape recorder in the bedroom and pretend we're on the air. So, it was doing all that. And I think Dad was witnessing all that, thinking, I think this young fella's going to follow in my footsteps. And he was very supportive. And when I got my first job, he didn't pull any strings, but he helped me record a demo tape, which was on cassette at the time, and helped me with the names of general managers and program directors from around the country to send the demo tape to. And eventually I got my first job in Swan Hill at 3SH in 1992.
Did your journeys ever overlap at all? Did you ever work with each other on the radio?
No, we worked at the same station or the same license, but not in the building together. So he was at 3DB in the 80s, and then I was at Mix 101.1 in the 2000s, which was the same license. But no, we never actually worked together as such.
John, tell me about the pride your dad had when you followed in his footsteps. Because as a parent myself, as you would know, he must have been so proud of you.
I think he was more relieved that I wasn't ringing up Triple M and Fox winning CDs, mate, because that was probably, it's probably been, looking back in hindsight, would have been very embarrassing to be the sports coordinator on 3UZ and, industry gosses that your son's a little prize pig and ringing up FM stations and winning things. So he was probably very relieved, Liam, to be honest, that I was flying the coop and heading to Swan Hill to forge a career for myself.
I would love to know if anyone ever called your dad and said, John, can you tell John to back it off a little? I would love to know if someone ever did that. Vertigans rang up again.
Well, I do remember I would be on the phone. It was like the old rotary dial as well. So you'd be ringing up. This is really sad, but I even remember the contest line numbers, Liam. The Fox was 11505, 3XY was 11515, Triple M was 11630. So you'd ring and you'd get into a system where you would bring the rotary dial round and then you would drag it faster so it would get through a little quicker. And I do remember Dad needing the phone quite often for business scenarios, and he would come in and see that I'm trying to ring up and win the top 8 at 8 with John Peters or Chart Attack with Craig Huggins, and he'd say, come on, mate, enough's enough. And I would argue with him saying, come on, no, I need the new Bros album. I need it. Very thankful I think he was when I did finally get my first job.
So you and your dad have a love for radio. What did you talk about in your spare time? Was there a lot of radio chat?
Did you like Bros, by the way?
I did, actually. You knew that. I knew that's why you dropped it in. I knew it. Nice try.
Conversations about radio? Yeah. I think especially in those early years, I would lean on Dad a lot for advice and air checking and general words of wisdom about my career and what sort of path it's going to follow. And I would also get him to send me tapes of what was going on in Melbourne radio because, of course, this is pre-internet, Liam, so we weren't able to stream anything. And I would love receiving recorded tapes that Dad had, been so good as to record the likes of Rob Elliott doing nights on Triple M and sending it to me so I could listen to that in my own time in Swan Hill. I remember I have very fond memories of receiving those tapes. So we'd do little things like that. And they would come up, Mum and Dad would come up and visit. And look, he was very proud and continues to be proud of what's going on, and always is very interested in the industry goss, and he follows the ratings and follows all of the trade websites and what have you. So he'll often have discussions with me about what's going on in the world of radio at the moment. But, I think he's quite happy and at ease with not being in it anymore because he's 88 this year. So he's certainly happy in his retirement.
I've painted a picture that it's all radio in the Vertigan house. So what other interests, non-radio related, did you and your dad have together?
Oh, fishing. We like fishing. I remember he used to take me fishing a lot. I remember him, this is a random memory of Dad and myself. I remember him waking me up in 1986 at 3 o'clock in the morning to take me to the foot of Mount Dandenong to see some comet that he was telling me about, called Halley's Comet, that I just did not give a shit about at the time. But remember him showing it to me from Mount Dandenong without the lights of the city, and I remember seeing it there. And, since then I realised that Halley's Comet's actually quite a big deal. Because it only visits once every 76 years, and I do remember seeing that in 1986, and I dare say it would be the only time that I see it in my lifetime.
I don't know, mate. When it comes around again, because I also got woken up to see Halley's Comet, and when we see it second time around, we're like, I remember you. Didn't we do this dance 76 years ago?
We may have lost our marbles by then, saying, "Hey, well, I seem to recall seeing this, but when was it? I think I saw this last week, didn't I?"
And so your son now starts to show signs of interest. He's got his own job and starting his own career. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, look, Benny is absolutely fantastic at what he does. He's just turned 18 and he loves live DJing. So he loves DJing in clubs, at parties. That is his true passion. And he did work experience at 3YBFM, Coast FM Warrnambool about 18 months ago. And he really enjoyed that. He enjoyed making music promos and things. And the manager came up to us as he was just about to go into year 11. He actually started year 11 and said, look, we'd like to offer Ben a job. We enjoyed having him at work experience, and I think he really enjoyed being with us. So we had some long, deep and meaningfuls about it all. He hated school, and we thought, well, this may be an opportunity too good to pass up. And he's now been there for about 18 months and absolutely loving it, and he's come such a long way. And, really enjoying it and having a good time. So he's sort of behind the scenes doing bits of this and bits of that, bit of traffic, as in commercial scheduling, support for the on-air team. He does football commentary panel operating. He does filming of local footy matches and all sorts of other things. So he's having a great time, and he's really come out of his shell, and he's, I couldn't be happier and prouder of him.
So how hands-on or hands-off do you now have to be with him finding his own feet?
Yeah, I've sort of taken a back seat because with my role with ACE as Metro Content Director, I don't really have anything to do with the local Warrnambool station anymore. Yeah, I do go in once or twice a week just to sort of mix with people and say hello, but primarily I work from home, so I don't want to interfere and, be a nepo father. I just sort of let the local Warrnambool team look after him. They're his boss. I have nothing to do with it. And, he'll come home and chat with me, and I'll throw some advice at him when I feel as though it's warranted, and he'll take that on board, and all is good in the world. But I try and not interfere too much.
How's it feel to know that you're part of a radio legacy, though? That's so cool, John. 3 generations have all had a job in radio. It's awesome.
It is pretty cool, isn't it? And I didn't think that it would go that way with Benny Boy, but when the manager at the time came up and said, look, he really enjoyed the work experience and we'd love to have him on board, I thought, wow, this could actually happen. And it has. And I know his granddad's very, very proud of him too.
Especially like sharing it with your dad and now sharing it with your son. Like you're so rewarding. It just feels special, doesn't it?
It is special. Yeah. No, it's really, really nice. And I hope that he can make a career out of it as his grandfather did, and as I have as well. What am I, 35 years now? So he's wow. And Dad was 53. So he's got a bit of a way to go.
We'll wrap it up, but what advice did you give your son, knowing the advice that your dad gave you, and now you can pass on stuff to your son? What's the radio advice? What did you tell him?
I think I said, make mistakes, try and not make the same mistake twice. Own your mistakes when you do make them. Be curious, ask lots of questions, and don't clock watch. There will be times when you're asked to stay back and panel an OB, do this, do that. But what goes around comes around, and you'll be able to knock off early on a Friday or come into work late one day. It all comes out in the wash.
Well, mate, congratulations on a legacy that spans 3 generations. It actually inspires the rest of us and gives us hope and a dream that, that the Vertigan family have shared. It's a great story. And Jon Vertigan, we're going to have you on again in weeks to come. Thank you for joining us on the Quarter Hour Podcast.
Congratulations on the Quarter Hour Podcast and all that you're doing, Liam. It's a great listen, and I really enjoy listening in and tuning in. It's fantastic, mate. So well done.